in a few seconds. Welcome, everybody. It's really a great pleasure to be with you again. We look forward to these events every Monday night. Women of Truth are bringing you something revolutionary about the future of health and particularly women's health. And tonight we have with us a really interesting lady living in Malta, but actually Slovenian on her way back to Slovenia. And in fact, a woman that has such a well-rounded integrative knowledge about what we're calling tonight the forgotten key. The forgotten key is really around how our intuitive and very powerful feminine energy is such an incredible resource for our lives. And when you hear the story from Sara, Jager, my guest tonight, thought leader for Women of Truth, revolutionizing the future of women's health, you'll understand why we're calling it the forgotten key. Now, Sara is actually one woman on the panel that is using an integrative approach to help many women, especially conscious female entrepreneurs, create sustainable success without sacrificing all the things that come with trying to build a career and trying to remain healthy and trying to stay balanced. She helps them to actually activate their pleasure, their power, and their purpose. And she's very interesting to listen to because she will share some of how she came into this knowledge and why it's such an important passion for her own life to really help women in this way. So Sara actually works a lot on holistic nutrition and lifestyle detox. She's also really working with that to help women leverage their businesses and get into sync with their bodies and with many ways that they organize their life around their cycle. And she is also really skilled in nutrition. And what I loved about her was her previous background in anthropology and really interesting time that she spent also with some people from the Maori tribe. And so she carries some of this wisdom as well in her work. Welcome, Sara, Jager. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Hellenique, for this beautiful introduction. It's my honor to be here.
It's really an important class tonight because a lot of women don't really know how the menstrual cycle can be such a powerful source of wisdom and deep inner reflection, and really a way of being able to align and sync up their energy with what they end up doing on the outside in their life. So perhaps we can give a little introduction to you and your work, and then go ahead and tell us all that you can with your wisdom and your wonderful insights about women's path and women's transformation through the menstrual cycle. So tell us just a little bit about it first before we launch off into the masterclass.
Sure. So I really do believe that our menstrual cycle is a vital part of us as women, because it really, as we're going to see throughout the workshop, it really influences all areas of our lives and all aspects of our being. And if we are not aware of the changes that we are going through on a daily basis, basically throughout the month, we don't know how to work with our inner programming. So we are constantly working against ourselves, actually, and it's very counterproductive. And so it's almost like we are trying to go against the current. And before you mentioned, that I learned a lot from the Maoris, their healers and shamans. And one beautiful way that I remember always is that they have this saying or this understanding of how we work and how our universe works, is that there is a flow, a current of universal energy. And there is this flow of energy within ourselves. And they have to be in sync. They have to go in the same.
Yeah, they got to connect.
Yes. Yeah. And this is how I see if we are not working with our natural rhythm. that we are constantly going against that current, and it brings us to burned out at some stage, or even more, to a disease, or definitely to an imbalance in one level or another. So that is why it's been quite a journey to how I came to work with the cycle, and I will be sharing more throughout the workshop. But when I really realized that this is the red thread that connects everything, I made it like my mission for the last couple of years to really share this with other women, because we haven't been educated about this at all. You know, we haven't gotten the basic information about how our bodies work, how do we take care of ourselves, what is going on with our hormones, what all the changes that come with it. And there's so much shame and guilt and disgust even associated with that women we're carrying in our bodies, and it's very heavy, and it's still kind of like a taboo topic. You know, it's something that needs to be avoided, or just like deal with it in your own way, you know, just yeah. So I do believe it's really important that we talk about it. And you said, you know, like I work with women who are women on a mission, leaders, entrepreneurs. And one common trait that we have is that we are so passionate about our work that we like to be in action all the time. And that very quickly can bring us into an imbalance and burnout. So that is why I believe it's even more important that we pay attention to that.
Fantastic. I think we've already started to understand the complexity. So anybody that's a mother today watching this on YouTube or Facebook, wherever you are, and even if you are very well aware of how important this is already, I welcome you to start taking some notes. As Sara starts to present her masterclass, she's going to share some important insight around how you can begin to correct some of the training, maybe that you've given your daughters about this very important power that we have. And if you still think that you've done enough, I again would encourage you to go into some deep insight after this masterclass around how you can help even your granddaughters have a new perspective about this. Because once we begin to correct this, and we do need to correct it because there's a lot of shame, I really think that's very true and very real, and a lot of silencing around a lot of things related to sexuality. And of course, it begins in this menstrual cycle awareness for all of us women, to begin to normalize it, to begin to educate the women and the men in our families about this. Sara's going to show how important it is, and maybe even give us some tips on exactly how to do that. But you yourself, after this masterclass, go into some contemplation with what you hear today and see how you're going to help correct this so that we can start to change and transform the future of women's health. Thank you so much, Sara. I'm really looking forward to your masterclass.
Amazing, thank you. So I will start sharing the screen. Just give me a moment. Can you see something?
Yes, we can see your screen as a woman if you're not consciously working. Yes.
Yeah, let me just bring it to the... Okay. Well, okay. So, as we mentioned before, the the title of today's masterclass is The Forgotten Key to Women's Wellness. And we explained already a little bit why this is really a key that is crucial for unlocking women's power and potential. And let's look a bit at why is this so important? So here there are many reasons. So here I just put like the top 3 that are kind of good reasons why it's a good idea that we spend giving a bit more attention to our menstrual cycles. And the first one being that a woman in average spends about 10 years menstruating. And I get really sad when I hear women saying that they hated their period, or they hated themselves when they're on their period. And now I know that a lot of women have like serious problems and very heavy symptoms that they're experiencing, and a lot of pain. So some women they have to stay in bed for a few days every month. So I understand where these strong emotions are coming from, but this is all, I do believe that a lot of this physical symptoms are related to the feminine wound. And this is, I'm not going to go into that topic because this is a whole other big topic that we can go to. And the second reason is that they actually recognize now the menstrual cycle as the 6th vital sign. So alongside our pulse, our heartbeat, our body temperature, our breathing. So because looking at the health of our menstrual cycle really gives a lot of information about a woman's health in general. So it's not something that is, like an option or like an alternative way to look at health. I really believe it's an essential element of health. And the reason being is because it really affects every area of our life and every aspect of our being. So our physical body, our mental, emotional, energetical, spiritual. And because of that, it affects every area of our lives. Our work, our relationships, how we communicate, how we show up, our health, our habits that are connected with that. So it really kind of infiltrates into everything, and even if we are not aware of that at all. And this is what has been happening for me. For so many years, I noticed that there are some changes during the month, and I didn't understand simply why they are happening. And I was just trying so hard to be the whole month the same, at the highest level of functioning. Because this is also what society expects from us, right? To show up the same every day, perform the same roles, have the same amount of energy, do the same things. It's our world, and the society we live in functions in a very linear way. So it is our responsibility now to reclaim our natural rhythm of living, which is circular, it's cyclical. So often when we talk about the menstrual cycle, we think only about the menstrual phase, the bleeding phase, our period, and also a phase that all women know is the PMS phase, so the premenstrual syndrome phase. And because mostly this is the most challenging phase for women, and there are cravings and anxiety, and we're going to go more into this symptoms a bit later. But in reality, our menstrual cycle is something that we are in or on every day of the month. And it has 4 main phases. And as you see here on this diagram, a lot of times they're saying just, okay, there are 4 phases, 4 weeks. But it's not exactly like that, because some are a bit longer, some are shorter. And of course, there are many variations because the length of the menstrual cycle varies from woman to woman and can go all from, let's say, 21 to 35 days, or some say even more. So of course, in that case, the length of a specific phase in the cycle then also varies. But if we're looking, let's say, at a 28 or around 30-day cycle, the bleeding phase would be 5 to 7 days. Then the follicular phase, which comes after, would be pretty much the same in length, so 5 to 7 days as well. Around the 14th day, then the ovulation comes, which is technically just 24 hours. But some say like this kind of phase can be kind of said that it's like 3 to 4 days. And then the luteal phase, it's kind of the longest. And it's so long that can be even divided into 2 parts. And the first part is still kind of a bit more active, while the second part, we are maybe getting already a bit more tired and going inward. So let's look at the phases a little bit more. So one distinction is that one half of the cycle is a bit more yin. It's a bit more introverted, a bit less active. So this is the premenstrual phase, or the luteal phase, and the menstrual phase. While then after the menstrual phase and all the way up until ovulation, it's a bit more outward oriented, a bit more young, a bit more active. So if we start with the menstrual phase, what is the most important thing here? It's resting. And I see that resting is a very, very big challenge for women, because we, as I mentioned already before, we have this idea that we have to be all the time in action. And if we rest, if we take a pause, if we stop, everything around us will stop as well. And it's our responsibility to take care of everything and be on guard all the time. But, and it has been super challenging for me as well. But during the last years, what I've been realizing is that the more that I allow myself to rest, like not just during my menstrual phase, but in general in life, the more I am able to create and give, and the more I am then productive when I emerge from the resting phase. So what I usually say women is that if possible, like really try to take it slow, at least for the first 2 days. And I take the first day or the second day definitely like almost completely off. I don't plan anything. And this isn't a waste of time, because this rest is really productive. And in this phase, you can get the deepest insights for your life, because in this phase, we are most connected to our intuition. Like we can slip easier and faster and deeper into meditation and into our inner wisdom. And if we connect with our womb, this is also a time when we can get insights about our lives, and then set intentions and actually plant those seeds of intentions into our womb, so that for what we want to birth into our lives. Because we have to be aware that this process, this cycle of birth and death is going on every month, not only when the woman is pregnant and gives birth. This is just maybe a few times in her life, or even never. But this process is going on in the body every month. So when we're aware of it, we can consciously co-create and use this life energy to birth things into our lives in the form of projects and creations and offerings and so on. So it's a great time to take stock of where we are, and also maybe realize if there is something that needs to be healed, maybe do some work on that. And if, like in this modern daily life, this resting seems completely, like what kind of science fiction is that? Like in the old days, people they recognize the importance of that. And women have been going, for example, the Native American Indians, they had the practice of the moon lodge. And then probably some of you heard also of the rent tent. And women used to menstruate at the same time because they were more aligned with the moon cycles. And we will go more into that a bit later. And they went into that lodge or cave or tent, and they were supporting each other, and they were connected with their dreams, and they were receiving insights and downloads with information that was so important, not just for them, but for the health and well-being of their communities. And then when they came back, they brought this knowledge, they brought this wisdom, and this process was respected. And now we kind of lost that. So we have to bring it back and create our own moon lodges, in our own homes. So then when we emerge from the resting menstrual phase, a new cycle is beginning. We enter the follicular phase. And this is really the time for action. And it's also the most kind of masculine phase, or like the phase where we can take the most advantage from using the masculine energy. So using the more active, forward going. Now it's time to just go in the direction that we set in our vision, in our intentions, in the phase before. So now is the time to go forward, take risks, start new projects, organize, prioritize, and just go. And this is going all the way. Oh, okay. So what is happening in the body in this time is also that we usually feel kind of a bit lighter after the bleeding phase. We naturally have more energy, and the hormones in our bodies are supporting that as well. So it's also time to get more active with movement and so, but again, we're gonna go into that deeper later. And then the follicular phase is followed by the ovulation phase. And this is really like of course, the peak of fertility. And this is almost like the harvest phase, where we can already look back at the first half of the cycle, look at the things that we have been doing, the steps that we took in the phase before, and maybe we can already see some results. So it's time to celebrate already. And celebration or acknowledgement and looking back and seeing what we achieved is also something that I see women aren't really good at. We always see all the things that need to be done in the future, and we rarely stop and take stock and acknowledge ourselves for all the things that we have already accomplished and done. So this is a really beautiful phase to maybe have a little ritual for yourself. And also it's the most outgoing phase, so or outward oriented, because in this phase our feminine energy, it's on the peak. So we are overflowing with this loving sensual energy, and what is usually happening in this phase is that we are magnetic, and we see people and opportunities and whatever we are calling into our lives naturally flowing towards us a bit more. And we are in this natural flow of creativity, and it's easy to infuse it into everything we do. It's also a great time to focus more on pleasure and sensuality. Maybe go for a massage or have dance or something like that. And then we're coming to the luteal phase. And I really like the phrase from the author is Suzanne Mattis McQueen, she's the author of 4 Seasons of 4 Weeks. And she calls this phase the deconstruction phase. And the other word that she uses for this phase is the fire walk. So this is really it's the last phase in the cycle. So it's the ending phase. And a lot of women experience anxiety and overwhelm in this phase. And the reason for this is because everything that we haven't been dealing with throughout the month, everything that we haven't resolved or settled comes bubbling up. So, and we can get triggered very quickly and overwhelmed by everything that is coming up. But all this is coming up for the reason that we see what needs to be released. So if we understand that then we are able to see, okay, this I am taking into the next cycle, this I want to release. So let me give you a very practical example of this. Let's say that in the menstrual phase, you got this big vision for a massive project, actually 3 projects. And then in the follicular phase, you started taking all the steps in those 3 directions. Until the ovulation phase, it was still all flowing. And then in the luteal phase, you start getting overwhelmed. So then again, it's like a good time to take stock and see, okay, one of these projects, this is the priority. With this one, I'm going forward. The second one is actually not serving me at all. So I'm going to completely drop it. And maybe the third one, it's something that is a long-term plan and can be for now put aside. But if we are then keeping all those 3 things, and this is what we often do in our life, we are just spinning our heads and we don't get much done, and we're not moving actually in the direction that we want to go. So, yes, so I said it's like a firewalk phase because it's like an initiation. And this is the beauty of the cycle, that with every cycle, we have this opportunity to evolve a little bit, to grow, to learn more about ourselves. And because this is going in cycles, every month we have this opportunity. So even if, you know, you kind of don't manage to do everything in this month, there's always going to be another cycle that comes. And another thing that is happening here is that our inner critic comes out to play. We are very detailed oriented in this phase. And we can use that to really finish up all the projects. It's a good time to do, you know, like any little errands, paperwork, bureaucratic stuff, just wrap up projects and things. And the inner critic, usually it will automatically turn against ourselves, and we can go into the downward spiral of blaming ourselves. But if we recognize that, okay, it's coming in, we can use the inner critic to help us discern what are the things that are serving us and what are the things that need to be released.
Sara, are you there? I think we've just lost Sara. And so we're going to just reflect a little bit on that really interesting process where you can actually see very clearly how there is this procession that happens in 4 steps. And I saw that slide you were about to share, Sara. It looked really interesting with the purple moon. So looking forward to hearing the rest of the presentation.
Okay, is it back? Perfect. So yes, as I've been saying, usually when you look up the connection between the lunar cycle and the menstrual cycle, you will find that they connect the bleeding phase with the new moon. Because the new moon is when the moon is hidden, it's not visible, and the bleeding phase is the time that we retreat and we're not active. And then the ovulation would be at the full moon. But of course, not all women are menstruating on the new moon, right? And there is no right or wrong way when to start the cycle. So, but there are certain characteristic or like energetic differences to regarding where you start your cycle and where is the moon. So speaking with a lot of women, I noticed that those women who are menstruating on the full moon, and this is called the red moon cycle, they are more active during their bleeding phase, and they have also more energy. They are quite energized during their menstrual phase. And then after that phase, they get the more low energy and tiredness and so on. And the red moon cycle has been linked more to women like in their active years, or like women who are really doing work that is very outward oriented. So women in business, or whereas the white moon cycle has more this mothering energy, more nurturing and caring. And then of course you can also menstruate on the first quarter or the last quarter or any time in between. And if you are menstruating with the waxing moon, it's called the pink moon cycle, and with the waning moon, the purple moon cycle. Okay, so now I would like to move into a bit more of a practical part, and I will walk you through the 5 steps of how to really start